Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. Here we are for Comics Revisited Station. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Cool.
So, all right, with us tonight, we've got Jelani joining us tonight. How you doing, Jelani?
Pretty good. Doing
pop,
all right,
boom,
man.
Baby. What about you, Brian? How you doing? We got Brian here.
Yeah, doing great, man.
Now, I'd like 2 eggs over hard.
I was doing good.
Speaking of doing good, we got Brooks here, so we're always doing good when Brooks is here. How you doing, Brooks?
All right.
Good. I don't know why I like doing that shit where I just bring us all in all at once, surprise everybody, but I like doing it.
Normally you do it one at a time. This time it's just like everybody's there.
Surprise!
Surprise, everybody. Watch out what you're doing. We're live. How you doing? Welcome everybody to Comics Revisited. Y'all, this is the 49th episode of Comics Revisited.
So the next one's 50, eh?
Next one's 50. Are we doing something special for it?
You gotta do a hollow foil cover for it.
That's right.
We should.
I'll
tell you that. I'll give you a hint. To celebrate 50 episodes of Comics Revisited, we'll do something related to Alex Ross. I'll announce that at the end of the show, of course. But tonight we're talking about Ghost World from Daniel Clowes. I love this book. I don't have my copy in front of me to show you because I lent it to Jelani, so Jelani will do it for me. Just imagine I'm holding that up. So Ghost World is a fantastic book. So I got into this pretty much 2000. Well, I started working at Rocket City Collectibles Comic Corner in 2000, right? No, it was
2001, I think.
2001.
So it's okay. So it was when the movie was about to be coming out, I think, too, because it was right around that era. Because I remember I never bought the version that had the cover with Enid with the hat on it or whatever. So since then, it's been that cover that Jelani just showed. So I got into it back then. It had already completed, been collected into a graphic novel. A movie was about to be coming out. But I got hip to Daniel Clowes' work in Eightball, which there's the first issue of it right there behind me. And this book was originally serialized in Eightball, issues 11 through 18. Completely done by Daniel Clowes. So I got hip to Eightball and Daniel Clowes' work by my buddies Dave and a mentor of mine in my life, Chris, who was one of the first people that ever took a chance on me in this crazy comic book industry and gave me a job slinging comics at a comic shop. I eventually took over that comic shop, and the rest is history. Here we are today. So I love the work of Daniel Clowes. I love Eightball. And Ghost World is probably his most popular work. Of course, there's the movie. Funny enough, it's almost like someone planned it this way. We're covering the movie on Monday night for PCP movie night. So it's a nice 1-2 punch. So I thought it'd be cool to go back and revisit this book. Now, this is going to be the first time for Jelani and Brooks, and the second time for Brian, though you are more recent. Now, it was originally serialized, like I said, in Eightball 11 through 18. So that's we're talking about mid to late 90s right there, right? And for the collected edition, it's kind of remastered a little bit. Daniel Clowes redrew some things and got the tint perfectly right to what he was envisioning, because it's monochromatic and it's kind of teal, bluish green, aqua,
like a sea green.
He describes it as television glow, like the glow of the television out of windows, right? And the movie even starts like that, but we're talking about the comic book. So I love this book. I love the work of Daniel Clowes. Eightball is majestic. Ghost World's one of his most popular works, in particular because of that movie. Other movies have been done based on his work. Art School Confidential, and then Wilson, which I've not seen nor read, but I do have the graphic novel. Excited to dig into that. So I want to know, Jelani, especially as a first-time reader, and you out there in the chat, I see you all out there right now, Steph, Joram, Berno, and the rest. Thank you so much for being here, Station. Jelani, what did you think about this book overall, bro?
Well, I liked it. I did like it. I enjoy the art style because it took a while for me to get used to years ago for other people's styles. And looking at this, I really like it's simple yet complex with the line work. It's very. I like the characters. I like the angst nature of it because this captures that period of time where everybody's just like, man.
For anybody that doesn't know, Jelani, real quick, just kind of tell us, what is the book about, basically?
Okay, well, I read it last night, so I have a jumbled kind of experience of it. But yeah, apparently it's a compilation of mini comics about these two girls named Rebecca and Enid. Rebecca and Enid. And Enid's pretty much the cynical one, a little more cynical than Rebecca. And they just graduated from like high school, and they really want to just get out into the world and figure out what they want to do with their lives. And it's basically a compilation of stories about what they feel about their town, how they feel about certain guys, what their loves. It's kind of a soap opera-ish, but for like a grungier crowd. It tells it's just a cute story. It's just cute little stories. I kind of like the one where Enid tells about her first time, about how awkward it was.
Yeah.
I like all the little, but they're all little like slice of life stories.
She says something like there was an episode of The Jeffersons in the background, and I remember that, and I was laughing. So I like had to hold myself back from laughing at the jokes of The Jeffersons.
Right. So it's like little quirky stuff like that, and I like the tint. I don't understand why it was every page. I don't know. I thought I'd seen this in different colors, like red and blue and things like that. But I like the uniform color that it has for this collected edition.
Originally, it was done, and it was very blue at first, but then it kind of morphs into that. There was I don't know, there was some kind of weird misprint on one of the issues where part of it was like a small bit of the print run was it printed yellow. And so that's like a variant that people get in there. And the red comes from they did the colors with we'll get more into the artwork and everything, but he did the color with like these sheets of like I don't know, like plastic film or something that he literally had to cut out all the negative space so that only the color was left and lay on that. And that's how right. We'll get into the craft. I'm sure Brian knows a lot about that too. I want that artist edition of Daniel Clowes' work because it has some of those films that you can put over the it's so freaking cool. So overall, you liked the book, Jelani, you would say?
Yeah, I did. Like for the first time, I probably need to read it again just to be absolutely sure. But yeah,
had you seen the movie?
I'd never seen the movie. I heard of it, and I heard of it, and even back then they were like, they made a comic book about this, and I was like, really? I never heard of it, and it wasn't like something I just hop and read like immediately. It's not it's an indie book, and it has that indie feel to it, and like 10, 20 years, probably 20 years ago, I probably wouldn't have read this like outright, but now that I've matured and I know that there are different comics in the world. And this one is very classy. I like it in a raunchy way. It's classy in a raunchy way.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And
we're gonna be digging into all the aspects tonight. By the way, gentlemen, I looked on YouTube, and aside from the video by Cartoonist Kayfabe, very small offerings about people talking about this book in an eloquent in a good way. I saw a lot of people just confused by it, and I was like, well, they just don't get it. And this one video I saw, they were just like, they were tearing the book apart. They were like, there's no direction, there's no goal, there's no art, but they kept calling Daniel Clowes. And I was like, well, they obviously don't know what they're talking about. Speaking of not knowing what they're talking about, Brian, tell us what you thought about this overall.
Yeah, I loved it. I missed out on the whole 8-Ball thing. I did have a couple issues of Lloyd Llewellyn by Daniel Clowes. So
oh wow,
I knew who he was. I might still have him. And I definitely remembered him. I loved him at the time. That was part of that whole, the black and white indie explosion with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Cerebus, Concrete was black and white. I mean, you had a lot of these. Yeah. I mean, a lot of these really just excellent pieces of work, out there. But when I looked back, I picked up the 8-Ball complete set several years ago, mainly because Matt Kent cited it as one of his biggest inspirations, and because he had basically got burned out with superhero comics and found this and just thought it was one of the best things ever. And so I picked it up, and you know, always heard his name because he's, you know, one of the biggest names and everything. So I picked up the trade a couple months ago. So that was the first time I read it. And I read it in one sitting, and it's not very long. You know, I mean, what, like 60 pages maybe, because it was like eight page kind of things going on. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. And I did start watching the cartoonist kayfabe video, but I stopped when I found out we were going to do this because I didn't want to just repeat a bunch of what they said. But yeah, they went in depth on that color thing. And I mean, I don't mind talking about it here, but that is, once you realize that's how it's done and you start looking at that, that's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in a comic. Yeah. I mean, it's just because like he, you know, if you look at how they, you know, he always letters Ghost World differently, right? You know, and then there's some where it's just like jagged little lines going all the way around that. He had to cut all that stuff out.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It looks very meticulous, right?
Yeah.
So overall, you like it, Brian?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. What about you, Brooks? This was your first time reading this book, and it will be your first time watching this movie as well when we discuss it on Monday. So what did you think about the book, my friend?
I liked it a lot. I don't think, I don't agree with the idea that it's not, it doesn't go anywhere. It's just, I mean, because it's obviously it's a very small scale kind of more dramatic story, rather than like a big epic kind of superhero thing that you expect from comics. But it's about change, and it's just a very personal story of a couple of kids basically coming to terms with the fact that the world is changing, and that they're going to have to do some changing too.
Yeah.
And you got, because I think mainly the story is mostly Enid's, because Enid is like, she's the one who's doing most of the things. She's trying to find herself, and Rebecca is more like she's more like, they're very similar, in how cynical they are about everything. They're kind of mean a lot of the times, but Rebecca seems more like she's ready to at least try and move on and try, the traditional adulthood, that they've been sold. But Enid is like, she's always in flux. She's always changing. That's why, like, she'll always have different hairstyles throughout different issues. She'll try wearing different things. Like she put on the cat mask that she got from the porno shop.
Oh my God! You have to let me borrow the money to buy this, Josh.
Yeah. And the funny thing about this book is, like, I knew girls that were like this when I was in high school.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I think I was a Josh to a couple. I think I was a Josh to a couple. I'll be honest with you.
I was kind of like that too, though. That's why one reason why I love it so much is I can relate to a lot of the stuff as well.
Yeah.
It's right around that time. Yep.
Yeah. And it's funny, and the chicken stuff is in the movie. That's not in the comic 62, by the way. Is it? Yeah, it's just in the movie. It's just in the movie.
That was just for the movie.
Hey, have y'all watched the movie yet, Brooks and Jelani?
I haven't.
Yeah,
not yet.
Okay.
But I heard it's like
it's
pretty
different.
much the same. It's different, but it's different. Still his story.
But there's a lot of bits that are carried over. Like
characters get merged. Like certain minor characters get merged into other characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're talking about, it's like, but where you're talking about, like, it's kind of meandering and everything like that. There's, because it's a movie, it's less meandering. To me, it's like
they have to thread it. It's with a more solid
it's more of a
line.
thread.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the comic seems like it's meandering. There are threads in it though, but it is like, it's a bunch of slices of life, right? I mean, it just keeps slicing.
Well, yeah. And when
everything.
you realize that this was serialized in a comic book that came out very irregularly, you know what I'm saying? Like, it would come out and then you would wait years sometimes for the next issue. Like, it took
kind of like a 90s version of like those old school romance comics, but like the protagonists are so like romance. It's anti-romantic.
It's so freaking, the 8-Ball is filled with so many great stories. Awesome. Poussey is one of them, which is this comic book artist, and it's a criticism of like speculation and the practices in the industry. Yeah. And that was serialized in 8-Ball. David Boring came out from 8-Ball. Caricature came out from 8-Ball. Like a Velvet Glove cast in iron was the first thing. So actually, when that was done, Like a Velvet Glove, Cast in Iron was a 10-chapter story. It's brilliant. We'll cover that one day. It's like Daniel Clowes doing Twin Peaks. Like it's fucking
whoa.
meets 8mm. Like it's so, but not in concept, Jelani, not execution.
Okay.
Because 8mm is a terrible
it's
fucking
trash.
film.
Yeah,
but basically, it's about that seedy world of pornography and snuff film and things like that.
Yeah.
So that was over. So he had to fill the pages with something because 8Ball was always like these funny ads and these weird little bits, and then these stories that would like have chapters, and those got collected into graphic novels eventually. So he needed a new one in Ghost World. He had no plan, apparently, when Ghost World Chapter 1 came out. It was just that. And it's just these two chicks talking at a diner about this crazy-ass story of this fucking edgelord dude who's got this priest who's making computer-generated kiddie porn. And then Enid's obsessed with these people that she thinks are Satanists.
Yeah.
And like the way that...
They buy Lunchables.
But so it is just snippets, you know. It is.
Yeah.
This is a serialized story that was in an irregular anthology. You know what I'm saying? That was filled with quirky, weird ass bits. But to me, out of all that stuff, this is some of the most grounded Clowes stuff of that era, right? Like the absurdity is only in the actual absurdity of observing society. You know what I'm saying? Like they're literally just commenting on these shit. And like Brooks said, we knew people like this. We were people like this at times, like Brian said. We would do that shit where you just go to the same diner every fucking night or every day. You know, we'd go to IHOP, just drink coffee all night long, eat chicken fingers, like and be like, or like make up nicknames for your server. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And prank call people.
Weird Al.
You're not fooling anybody with that toupee, Don Knotts. So it's filled with those kind of moments of youth that we know. Story-wise, there is a story though that Daniel kind of figures out in the book, and it's about this friendship kind of coming apart. Right, that moment when you're out of high school, you don't know what you're going to do. Some people know what they're going to do. I was one of those guys that didn't necessarily, I knew what I wanted to do. It was a whole fucking shit ton of things, right? So there was no clear path of what to do. And so like, I had this meandering for a long time. This book to me is about that meandering that a lot of people feel in the year or two after high school, right? And it's about how there's the title Ghost World. We'll get into this stuff later on, but like, it's about how your life at any given moment, it's going to be a ghost world to you in like 4 years. You know what I'm saying? You're going to look back. It's going to be like weird. It's a weird lens that you're looking in. And that can go back all the way through the past in Americana. Story-wise, though, and in the story discussion, we'll talk about those characters too. Amazing. Like no narration, no captions, no thought balloons, all dialogue. That's not something typical in the Clowes work of the time, right? It also means he has to really stretch his muscles at storytelling through visuals and pacing more so than telling you. This is an expert level show don't tell comic book. I freaking love it. And it looks wordy and verbose, but it's not overly so. It glides across the page. I love the dialogue. I think it's real, grounded dialogue, real grounded situations, and real grounded characters. What do you think about the story and characters, Jelani?
Once again, I liked it. I think that it is a huge slice of life. I like the little snippets where these girls are just being mean. And they're just doing, this ironic, not ironic kind of thing. They want to do like this. They screw that guy over with the date, but they feel terrible about it. And
yeah, while it's happening, they're like, bro,
they should have done this. They shouldn't have done this. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, after Josh warned him, like, right, he was like, no, I don't want to do this. This is terrible. And then they go, and all of a sudden,
it just happens, and it's so bad. And I love these little, just like I said, quirky little situations that they have. There's so many that are kind of smashed together because, like I said, I only read this once and got through a good bit of it not knowing what was going on for the first like probably 8 pages before I got into the groove of what was happening. But the story itself, like once you see it as a breakdown of a friendship, like how, you know, they're straying away from each other slowly. It's just, you know, in each issue, it feels like they're breaking apart more and more. And you can tell by towards the end, they're just not together. And it's just that the places that they go, the things that Enid sees after she doesn't get accepted to the school of her choice, and all those things.
It gets heavy in that last chapter.
It's really dark.
Like that. There's that moment where I almost said Scarlett says, but when Rebecca says, you know, maybe I don't want to go with you to college.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you know, she's like, yeah, I thought that was weird. And he's like, how sad is that I have nothing else but to follow you to whatever you want to do. Like,
right.
Rebecca's an underappreciated character in this book, I think. And in the movie, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
She's different in the movie. It's a different dynamic there. Like, she's got a plan. She's the one that does have a plan. Enid doesn't.
Yeah.
And this one, neither of them.
Character in the movie.
Yeah. And what's crazy is like, I was thinking that when I revisited the movie, and I was like, I remember a lot more Rebecca in the comics, and it's true. But most of what you see is Enid telling Rebecca things that she's like done. So that's already showing you that they're not always together anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? They still perpetuate this lie, though, that they are.
Yeah.
Right.
They still go to the same diner. They still do kind of the same things. They hang out with Josh still, but it's not the same. And yeah, you do get that little disconnect towards throughout the course of this, especially hit hard at the end.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a fairly decent story. I don't know how to really explain it until like I said, I want to read it again.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that everything with all the dots are connected. Another thing I liked is how everyone apparently all the males are buck-toothed. Almost every male is drawn buck-toothed. And it was like hard to keep up with.
Someone in one of those videos was complaining about how everybody looks so ugly. And I'm like, were you familiar with Daniel Clowes' work? Because everybody's fucking Don Knotts in his fucking world, man.
It's insane. Even the handsome guy
was a good casting choice for.
No shit, right? Hey, Brian, what'd you think about the story, bro?
The story, yeah, I loved it, and I did like it better the second time. You know, because it's where it ends, right? You know, so you can actually start kind of piecing together what's happening through that part. You know, yeah, like we were mentioning, we've met people like this and been like, you know, I was like this, you know, around that same time frame. I remember that last summer I had after high school, you know, and I had, you know, this tight core group of friends, small, right? And you know, we all went our separate ways and everything like that. But I mean, we stayed in pretty good contact. But yeah, it's, you know, yeah, that's the, you know, part of where, when they played that trick on that guy and then they felt bad about it, it was like, you know, I related a lot to that too, because like, you know, I would try things, even though I knew they were probably dumb or wrong, you know, and then would find out and be like, oh crap, that was terrible. You know, I mean, it's like, this is that age, right? You know, and that age, you know, especially if you're, you know, I don't want to say freak, but just different, you know, into different things than people that age usually are around you and everything like that. You know, your social circle is pretty small, you know, and then sometimes, you know, you react to that as like, you know, it's like, well, it's because all these people suck, right? You know, and that's what they, you know, so you're mean to all these people for no real reason, right? I mean, they're not doing anything to you and everything like
squares.
That. Yep. So yeah, it's yeah, you know, it's definitely the aspect of the serialized storytelling that kind of I can see how it can throw you off the first time, especially when you're, you know, reading it in a condensed form like a graphic novel and everything, because it you know, it's not like cliffhanger endings, you know, going to any of this stuff either. It's just like, you know, kind of usually the last panel though does have something that kind of wraps up whatever little actions that were going on in there too, which is brilliant the way he did that. I thought that's like, I appreciated when you said that, Robbie, about how he, you know, mastered storytelling through the art and everything like that. Cause it was usually the resolution. I wish I could remember an example, but I mean, it would be a visual cue of something that had happened.
Well, like a good example is the second chapter, which is the garage sale chapter, where she leaves all of her stuff there and she refuses to sell to sell this one thing to this dude because she's like, I couldn't stand something from my childhood going to this dude with this fucking haircut or whatnot. Yeah.
Right.
And she goes back, and obviously since she left all the shit out, it's been gone through, but this one thing's still there. And she just goes, thank God. And that's like the last panel you see is her like clutching it. Right. Because this world is about clutching onto something that's going away. Every moment that we exist is going away. Yeah. So it's like, I think it's a contemplation on this. The ghost world is the what was just now.
Yeah.
Right. And change, like you guys said. Book about change, Brooks said in particular. So hell yeah, man. What about you, Brooks? What do you think about the story, man?
I like it. I mean, it is a very small scale personal story. It's just about, a period of time with these two characters from from finishing high school and then transitioning into, whatever comes next. But, one thing about it is that in the 90s, the whole attitude of not caring about anything was everything back then. It was you could not care about anything. Caring about things was uncool. And
yes.
And it was just a facade that people put up, to give the appearance of being too cool.
Yeah, because the thing that you heard, the thing that you would hear the most from people, Brooks, would be, yo, let me tell you something about myself. I'm going to be real. I don't like drama, and what did you just say? I don't care what people think of me.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about anything, right? That was every I don't like drama and I don't give a shit about anything. Bruh, you literally just contradicted yourself. Plus, you're right. That's just an act that we all did. It was Offspring did that song. It's cool to hate.
Yeah.
That still exists. It still exists.
It's if I'd had to sum the 90s up in one word, it would be whatever. Whatever was the catchphrase of the 90s.
For the whatever generation, y'all.
And, it's easy to do that when you don't have to,
Right.
When you're a kid, when you're a teenager back then, you could afford to not care about things, because you're set. But then, the real thing starts hitting in, and then you start to realize, how painful caring about things is, and how, you have to care enough to, get a job, and, and that means, you have to give up things too. You have to give up the friendships you've made.
Yeah.
You've spent years with these people, and now all of a sudden, they have to go this way and you have to go that way. And, and that's when the mask falls away, and, you realize how vulnerable you are, and all the caring, being too cool and not caring about things, it just falls apart. I think that's why it hits particularly Enid so hard, is that, she's never had to really experience the kind of, this kind of thing.
Yeah. She's got a father who just loves her to death.
She has a doting dad.
Yeah, exactly. And then Rebecca's got, she lives with her grandmother. She's obviously seems like she has a rougher time of it. And they're two stories. The split happens here. And this is something that you see in your friends that you develop especially in high school and when you get after high school. And, that summer after graduation, I remember the day after graduation, first place we went was this place called The Kettle. It was a Denny's kind of place, but it was all wood paneling and shit. Right. So that was our hangout, was The Kettle on University Drive, y'all. And we went there all the time. And we even went there on graduation before we went out to the parties and shit. But that's where we went. That's where we hung out. That whole crew, none of us talk on the regular anymore. We were the closest of friends in those days, And this is what happens. You have some people that resign themselves to, like Rebecca did, I'm here. I got to get a job. I got to get a place. And this is life now. Right. And then you've got someone like Enid who doesn't want to do that and leaves. Right. So I think that's interesting that Rebecca came from a home where she's living with her grandmother. Seems like she has a lonelier, less supportive, right? Because her grandmother seems like she's up there in age and doesn't really connect, obviously. And Enid doesn't appreciate what she has either. Neither of them appreciate what they have. At the same time, they're not necessarily given what they need, but what teenager is, right? That's the point of being a teenager, is you got to go out there and find the shit out on your own. Some of us resign ourselves to stay in town, get a job. Others resign ourselves to go the fuck away. There is a middle ground there, and that is the town drunk, which I've toyed with at times, but not quite ever jumped into that territory. The artwork is amazing. It is part of the story. It is how you storytell. This is fucking beautiful. It is deceiving as hell in its simplicity. There is so much thought and work that's put behind every fucking panel. And I'm not just talking about the juxtaposition of the dialogue with the image. I'm not just talking about the perspective. I'm not just talking about the facial feature. I'm talking about that whole goddamn package. I'm talking about looking at each page as a work of art. I'm talking about looking at each panel as something that could be hung up in a museum. And guess what? That's literally happened. We're talking about the amazing usage of that color and the meticulous way that he had to do that color. Remember, every time you see a shade of that color, which is supposed to be television color, every time you see a shade of that, think that that was a piece of film left on a big sheet, and he had to cut out every single negative space. That is so freaking wild in my head to think about. Like today, you do that on a computer in 5 fucking seconds. Your colorist gets paid and did nothing. You know what I'm saying? But man, that is some freaking work. That is some craft. When you hear people like me or other people in the shops or Ed and Jim over at Cartoonist Kayfabe, when they talk about Daniel Clowes as a cartoonist and the level of craft and mechanical skill that's there, they're not lying. It is deceptive how freaking simple it looks, because behind every brush stroke, which is amazing, the freaking actual, just the work, like to realize how there's so much work to make it look so easy. Daniel Clowes is like the fucking best of that shit. I adore the artwork in this book. What do you think about the art, Jelani?
Oh yeah, I agree fully. It is very pretty to look at. It's got a great tone to it. Like I said before, the line work is outstanding. Like the fact that you have like pages, and I keep showing pages, but like these pages, man, it's just all that negative space that's in there. It's so beautiful. The characters are so rich. I don't know how to explain it, man. It's just such a great looking book.
There's great spotting of blacks on each page to anchor everything, right?
It really does.
And the shading, the coloring.
It's so beautiful. And like I said, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have gotten this. I really wouldn't have understood how pretty this is. But
hand lettered too, Jelani.
That is
hand
insane.
lettered.
And like it tells such a good story, and like the pictures give you exactly what you need in this story. Like it tells the story very well. Yeah, you don't need the thought bubbles. You don't need the word like balloons. You don't need all those little things that are, supplementary to be like, this is how this went. This is where it was supposed to go yesterday. It doesn't show all that, not all. I think it might be a little bit, maybe, but I didn't really notice it. It's just so well drawn. I really appreciate that the man cut it out. You just told me that. I had no clue that he cut into paper to make this work, and it works very well. I'm very surprised.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The amount of detail, the emoting of the characters, the body,
you can see
language.
Everything.
It's masterful.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fucking masterful. And it's not like, I'm not trying to talk shit about any of the other comic book artists that we love and shit, like Jim Lee or Rob Liefeld or Todd McFarlane or any of these guys, right? But what Daniel Clowes does is something on a different level. And it's something that is so subtle and nuanced and very much appreciated. Like, this is some of the best art you're going to see. And it saddens me that I know a lot of people will just flip through this on the shelf and be like, this looks stupid. This looks simple, and it's also broken down in mostly 9-panel grids. They play around with the 3-tier structure at times. I think he widens it out for a moment, but then kind of brings it back in. And obviously, Daniel Clowes has a big Steve Ditko influence that I pick up on. Speaking of Steve Ditko influences, Brian's secluded in an apartment in New York and is only answering handwritten letters at this point in his life. So, Brian, what did you think about the artwork in this book?
I won't accept awards. Follow Ayn Rand all the time now. Shit. It's hard not to just gush over the artwork endlessly because it's like you guys are saying. I mean, it's just masterful what he does. That scene you're talking about, Robbie, on the example where she kept on, that little, that toy from when she was a kid. And when she realized it, as she was running back, he did air bubbles. Because she's running back at night, so it's like black behind her. But he puts little air bubbles to make sure she's breathing hard to run. I was just like, he didn't have to do that at all. But it's just like it adds to the it added to the tension. I mean, it's just amazing. It does make me feel like I missed out, on that 8-ball stuff as it came out because I would have fallen all over that stuff every time it came out, and I think it. Yeah, you mentioned how infrequently it came out. I noticed there's like 18 issues, which I think came out over 8 years. So that's pretty dang infrequent. But yeah, you can see why he's such a big influence on, a lot of the people now too. Because I noticed reading the latest issue of Red Room, I felt like some of the characters he was drawing, the couple in that, some of them look kind of like the way they're, Daniel Clowes drew Enid and stuff like that. I don't know, it just seemed like some of the expressions, seemed to be kind of pulled from that. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's just amazing. Cause also I haven't read through all of these issues of 8-ball, but it's I think you can recognize his style and everything, but like the different books have pretty different styles too. So like he flexes muscles in different ways. I think every time he does a project, it's almost like he's challenging himself to try to do things in a different way to see what that does. And, and that's what, it's what real artists do. Right. I mean, they, you kind of move past what you've done and try to create something new, and it's just great. So I was going to ask, so that issue, cause in mine, the complete 8-ball, that issue, I think it's part 5 or 6 is yellow. So that was a misprint or
it was. I don't know the true story or anything behind it, but I think they were trying something different or there was a mess up at the printer. I think they were trying a different technique or there was mess up at the printer. There was a small number of yellow ones printed and then they corrected it. But then at that point forward, I think if you notice, that's where, when you first read it, if you're reading the original issues, it is very just strikingly like light blue, right?
Yeah.
And then you see it go, there's that yellow issue, and then it gets more into that teal, like toothpaste color. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's in
a little bit greener.
The one that's in the final version. Maybe that was a thing. Like they were trying to adjust the yellow levels in the printing. And maybe they fucked up or something, and like they messed that up bad, bruh.
Yeah, but I was, when I found out that was the technique he used for doing that color, I was like wondering like how loud he got if he messed up. He had to have messed up, maybe at least once.
Bro, there's that moment where he's got the cursive Ghost World logo, and they show that on Cartoonist Kayfabe because they have the artist edition where they have the like acetate overlay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bro, he literally was like cutting out with an X-Acto knife on this like plastic film Ghost World in fucking cursive. What the fuck, bro?
Yeah.
You gotta be shitting me.
Absolutely crazy.
That's a lot of work. That is
really
a
great
lot of
stuff.
work.
And the way the storytelling is perfection in this damn book. Brooks, you're an art school person. You're an artist.
Yeah.
You went to art school. What do you think about this book, bro?
I really like the art in this book, actually, especially for for the kind of story you're telling. It's very less is more, kind of style. Like, it's about, presenting the characters and like the expressions and stuff. It's not like, traditional superhero comic stuff where it's all about action. You know, you're not going to see a lot of characters doing like dynamic poses or anything like that in this book. You know, most of the time they're sitting and talking, and that's pretty much it. And the art style, you know, reflects that. You know, it's just good, solid line work, and it's got that kind of like almost old school romantic comic style. Like another artist who I think does this pretty well is Mike Allred. He does that kind of old school style from like, you know, back in the day. Solid lines
with a little bit more dynamism.
Yeah. Like they're not the same, but this is kind of a similar style.
There's a little bit more Kirby injected into that. Maybe, you know, they both have that Toth Ditko kind of influence though.
Yeah. It's just fewer lines, right? I mean, they're not.
Yeah. See, people all the time think that means like it's like cheaper or easier. No. Like Brooks knows this, you know, like what I'm saying, like how much work has to go behind drawing even something simple. Eventually you're like Sergio Aragones or you're like Charles Schultz and you're just able to do it like super easy, but you got to really like Daniel Clowes doesn't do the same thing in everything. He'll maintain the same style for his different books, but even if you look at a fucking book of Eightball, every strip is different. Yeah, it all looks different, and his style's progressed. And by the way, Brian, that's not the complete Eightball because there was more than 18 issues. There were 23, but the other ones were magazine size.
Yeah, and it addresses that in there. It says, "Don't wait for volume 3."
Yeah,
you know, you can get it this way. Like, because I think it's David Boring and
it's David Boring, Icehaven, and Death Ray. Yeah, that's the last 5 issues there. That's all you need. You don't like literally. There's no extra bits. Like David Boring was the next 3 issues, then the Icehaven issue, and then Death Ray, and there wasn't anything extra. But then he went on to do work like Wilson, which they did a movie on, and I haven't even watched or read that book, but I got it. And Patience, which was his latest book in 2016. So that was 6 years ago. So. Maybe we get another Daniel Clowes book coming up on the horizon. Wouldn't that be dope? That would be really cool. I think so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the artwork is absolutely amazing. What about the thematic material in this book? What is the book trying to say, Jelani? We've touched on it, but let's wrap that up.
Yeah, well, Brooks nailed it with the change aspect. Basically, it's, I guess, growing up. And growing up is hard to do. And it shows, you know, the in-betweener period that we've talked about from about how you're supposed to play your life out, what it's supposed to be. You know, I don't want to wait for our lives to be over. I want to know right now.
This is like Dawson's Creek done right.
Yep. But it's just such, it's a coming of age tale. As cliche as that sounds, and that's exactly what Ghost World feels like. I haven't watched the movie yet, but I'm pretty sure like I'll get it after reading this, and I'm not gonna scream at the screen. This wasn't right. You didn't do this.
It's not
gonna be that.
Some slight differences, but it's Daniel Clowes was also the co-writer of that screenplay, for which he was nominated for an Academy Award. So, how many comic book cartoonists can say that they were nominated for an Academy Award? Ben Affleck can say that, you know.
Unfortunately,
so can Daniel Clowes, though. Brian, what's the book trying to say to you?
Well, I think it's. I mean, to me, I guess one of the primary themes is identity. You know, like your personal identity, because Enid's struggling a lot with that. I think. And I say struggling. You know, she hasn't found. You know, it seems like she tries to find, which a lot of people, and I can relate a lot, you know, especially at that age, trying to figure out who you are, what you like, and all that stuff. And it, you know, at that age, you try to turn, a lot of times you end up turning to external things like, you know, micro scenes in music, right? Like she makes that reference to like her punk look was very specific to the late 70s British scene or something like that, you know, and then, you know, then she moves on to,
because people that dress like punks in 2001 or in the 90s piss her off.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's
because
like
that's when emo started, right?
She hates in the world but she does the same thing, right? But there's a difference. Like, there's even a bit in the book where, and this is more so in the book, I think, covered than maybe in the movie. It's in the movie, but there's a more old school approach taken with the way they use the way they kind of create this character for Steve Buscemi, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like when Enid even says, like, there's a moment where like, I was into this, I found this band or this artist, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And then this person gets into it, and now everybody loves it, but they didn't do the work like I did. There's something inside of us.
She's a hipster.
They're hipsters. There's something inside. I mean, there's even a moment where they're at the diner that keeps getting filled with more and more people, and they're like, I thought we were supposed to be the only fucking hipsters here. You know what I'm saying? Like something like that. So yeah, that's
the only reason they started going there is because it was so lame.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Check out this fucking lame ass diner.
In the fucking Jelani, no spoilers here, but when they the Wowsville fucking diner, what makes it even more lame in the movie is that they're playing modern music in it. And Weird Al is perfect in the fucking movie, bro.
Yeah.
God.
You can see his hair bobbing back there.
Oh my god. What else did you get, Brian?
Well, yeah, and then just kind of the kind of temporary nature of relationships, and that's I like what you said about the Ghost World aspect of it. That makes a whole lot more sense. I mean, and it's and also the Ghost World thing though did kind of make me think of when I talk about attachments to the external things. Music plays a much bigger role in the movie, I think, but in this it does actually play a fairly decent role, and because she gets hooked on that song. There's that one part that pretty much her, the action in it for her is finding that one song when she was a kid.
Oh yes,
and that was actually one of my favorite parts of it, because I can relate to that so much. Like you're in the dumps and all this stuff, and it's just like there's this perfect song that'll fix it, right?
Yeah,
and so. And as a teenager, you have time to chase that. As you get older, that's not always an option there. But and then like I thought it was so cool that though, like she spent all this time and she could never find it and everything, and then her dad has it laying for her on her bed because he went and found it.
And it's right after Rebecca tells her like basically fuck you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And she goes there and basically Rebecca tells her everything's handed fucking to you. Like, fuck you. You hate all this shit about everybody. Right. You're just like them. So fuck you. You don't, and then she goes there and her dad, who she treats like fucking shit basically at times. Right. Yeah. Just like, here you go, kiddo.
Yeah. I love you. He held on to it too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my God. That's touching. That's some real good shit right there, man.
Yeah. So, but I mean, those are the themes I came up with. It's just a meandering, a tale of life that I think a lot of us can relate to, when you're kind of an outsider, right? Growing up, and you're, for me, I was, kind of a nerd and everything like that. I had a good core group of friends and everything like that, but it was, pretty small social circle and everything like that. And I'd crap on people that didn't like the stuff I didn't like. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
We weren't living on the edge. We were living on the fringe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. I like that.
Brooks, what about you, man? What's this book speaking to you, my man?
Well, you mentioned the whole Ghost World thing. To me, I always thought of it as like, how sometimes the world feels so ethereal to us, like, especially like at that age, and with Enid, like, it's like, does anything really matter? And Enid it's like she's practicing walking away from things, like, with the garage sale. She's like, fuck all that stuff. I don't need it. But, in the end, she does come back to get that one thing. And it's like the last thing she needs to let go of is her friendship with Rebecca, because it's the most important thing to her. And it's the thing that's, going to be the most painful to let go of.
Right.
But this is a really good book,
The more we talk about it, the more we like it.
Damn, this is a really good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great points there. I mean, because it's just letting go, I guess, really is kind of a theme too, right?
Yeah.
Because of, she's attached to all these
Everything
external
seems
things.
so unimportant, but then like important at the same time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, she doesn't care about this little thing, so she puts it for sale, but she can't stand the thought of some other fucking
Some
hipster
guy
having it.
having it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I did the work, not you.
But yeah, she wants to leave, but she has all these anchors that like all of a sudden she doesn't think she needs them, and then all of a sudden it just clicks, and she, it's I don't know, it's
Oh, and the
the more we
whole
talk about it, the more I like it.
the whole Norman bit too, bruh. We didn't even talk about the Norman bit, like the old dude sitting at the fucking bus stop.
Yeah.
And dude, Jelani, wait till you see how that's done in the movie, because that is handled so fucking well in the movie.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about.
I
Oh
think
my
it's better.
god! Oh, it is better.
Like I didn't even notice that character that much until I'd read it again after watching the movie.
Yeah, I gotta read it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great.
Let me watch this movie.
He's the old guy sitting at the bus stop that has been discontinued, and he's there every day. And she calls him Norman because some obnoxious kid.
Yeah, some kid wrote his Norman
and that's another thing about.
I love that though.
There's a moment there where she goes, "That's so some obnoxious kid did that," and then like Rebecca says, "You would do that."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going. I mean, there's so much about this. It's so layered. It's so dense with meaning for how exactly
really
for how short it is. Like nobody else. Like you don't. It will ruin comics for you, man. Comics are just. This is what comics can be. This is efficiency in the medium. This is meaning in it, right? So much of that. Like we touched everything you guys said. But the other thing I will say is this, like, obviously the ghost world thing I was talking about, how every moment is a ghost because it's gone. Like as soon as you mention it, it's gone. And there's this tinge of nostalgia, even at times for things that are just a few years old. Like when I think about my life 3 years ago, that's like a different fucking person tying into your identity thing that Enid's going through, right? But Ghost World also means, like Brooks was alluding to, this ethereal nature of the world. Part of that is how unrelatable other people can be to us at sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how we can get on our high horse, and we can make a whole comic and over years and years meticulously craft the correct tint of television color that comes out. If I open this window right now, I would see this tint coming straight through. Well, now TVs are a little bit different, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, you know what we're talking about. People, all it is a world of people sitting, watching TV. That's the most activity you get in this fucking book is people watching TV and talking. It starts that way. And then it eventually kind of goes to end that way, right? I mean, there's all this stuff. It's about what's on TV. They're watching TV. They're talking about it. It's not a criticism on that. It's just, this is the world. A world of zombies, a world of ghosts, right? And you yourself are in danger of becoming that ghost. You can look at, does Rebecca become that ghost? Or does Enid escape that? Or does she just run away to become a ghost in another town? And at the same time, it is about that pulling away where someone's trying to not necessarily struggle with who they are, but trying to define who the fuck they are. It's time for me to create who I am. And you can't do that with the person that knows you the best. So sometimes you got to cut it off so that you can truly be someone new.
Plus toxic relationships. Yeah.
Right. But like, and then this side, I don't think Rebecca's doing anything wrong in the relationship. It's not even Enid. I think this is just this is the way that it usually goes. Some people leave, some people resign and stay. But whether it's a resignation or whether you run away, that could be viewed as a good thing or a bad thing, right? So neither of them like have it. And I love the moment. This is way different in the movie, but I love this moment at the end in the book where Enid looks one last time at Rebecca, and to even show her age, her eyes are going bad. She has to wear specs now. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, "You've become a beautiful woman," or something like that.
Yeah.
And then just like leaves on the same bus line that took Norman away. And
last page.
Let me blow that up real quick. And what's the line of dialogue she says right there, bro?
You've grown into a very beautiful young woman.
Oh man. Yep. And after all of the fuck yous and all that shit. Like that's the most touching thing. So to me, it is about letting go. It is about change. It is about that time in between. And it's just such a joy to fucking read. I mean, this has got to be more than an annual revisit from this point forward, y'all. We just got to keep doing, like, keep reading this book, keep watching this movie.
I want to drop off so I can read it now.
Yeah, exactly. We're don't worry, we're about to wrap this up. So
Wow.
We'll talk about the legacy real quick. Obviously, Daniel Clowes is a big influence on cartoonists and comic book artists, and more so in the indie scene, maybe, obviously. Daniel Clowes would never have done a Marvel or DC book, but if he did, could you imagine how fucking crazy that would be?
Yeah.
If I ever get,
A little bit.
if any of those companies ever fucking get the bright idea to put me on an anthology as an editor, I'll do whatever the fuck I can to get Daniel Clowes to do something. I'll be like, because he loves superhero comics. He loves comics in general. But Daniel Clowes is amazing to me. So the legacy of this book is this. There was the movie. That led to the huge success of this, helped put Fantagraphics on the map, helped elevate other creators like the Hernandez brothers, like Peter Bagg. So Fantagraphics has benefited. We have Ed Piscor and Jim Rugg today, probably because of the success of Daniel Clowes, in particular of Ghost World being successful for him, allowing him to go off and do bigger, bolder projects, playing with time travel and patience, doing his Wilson, other movie work for him. Terry Swigoff, who did the Crumb documentary. This was his first fictional film, was Ghost World. So he's into comics. They did Art School Confidential. Like I said, they did Wilson. And people are going to keep mining the brain of Daniel Clowes because it's delightfully indie in all of the great ways. Any thoughts on the legacy, y'all? Anybody?
I don't know. I mean, you knocked out like his the fact he got a film out of it, and that he has a career in film because of it. So there are a lot of different things that you can pull from it. I don't know. I had no clue that this started in art form. Well, not started in art form, but it I guess allowed an art form to be recognized in such a manner.
Yeah.
I didn't know he inspired that many people. That's awesome. But I'm pretty sure it's been since the late 90s that this was done. So it has a good feeling to it. And I don't know. That's what I could say about it. I mean, I don't read that many of those books that you mentioned, but I see that this started a pattern.
Well, don't worry. We'll make sure you're here for those episodes of Comics Revisited.
Cool.
I feel like, like you were saying, like the movie, because of the success of the movie and everything like that, it helped keep that torch going from the comics with an X, from the 60s and 70s, R. Crumb, Art Spiegelman, the movement that those guys created. Like, to me, like he was the passing that torch on, right? He grabbed the torch from them, and he's still doing it, and everything like that, and keeping that underground comics feel alive, and taking it to new places too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think that's probably the biggest impact of his legacy is keeping that alive, and giving us great grounded stories. Because, like, I know some of his stuff is out there, don't get me wrong.
It is,
and it's really cool. But yeah, I think there needs to be bigger space for just some grounded comics, and I think they're probably out there. I just don't really end up reading them a lot of times. But when I do, man, I freaking go all in.
Yeah. It also, like, really it's got to be inspiring to see someone who does everything themselves. Dan doesn't have an editor. Yeah. He writes everything, he edits everything, he draws everything, he does every stroke you see. He hand letters the goddamn books. Like, he does all the design. He loves that shit. Read Death Ray, which is one of his greatest comics. I think it's better than Ghost World, like, as far as just a piece of, like, work, right, artistically, because every page is like its own individual comic strip with its own logo, and it's fucking wild, bro. So
it's so good.
You got to dive deep into the legacy of Daniel Clowes here, because it is much appreciated by a lot more people than you probably realize. Brooks, what about you? You got any thoughts on the legacy?
to me, this book feels a lot like a period piece now. You know, it's like the era that it's set in is like it captures just so much of that, you know, the 90s attitude, you know, how people talked back then, you know, what things were like back then, you know, what was important to people. It's kind of like, you know, having, you know, grown up in the 90s myself, like, you know, it clicks with me, you know. Like I was like, oh yeah, I remember things were like that, you know. People did act like that, you know. There was that whole stupid thing, you know, like that was going on back then, you know. And
the fucking personal ads, for instance.
Yeah.
Reality bites.
It's like a time machine for your mind almost.
Dude, one of my favorite bits in the whole goddamn thing. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but when they're following the Satanists around in the grocery store and they just got a fucking cart full of Lunchables.
Yeah.
The fucking, like, I love the comedian dude on the TV, like the weird comedian. I think Rebecca says something like, how's that guy going to say he's weird? He's wearing fucking Nikes.
Yeah, he says he's out of touch and weird, but he's wearing Nikes. Yeah. And he's just like, they do that bit good in the movie too.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Like, people think it's weird because I'm still living with my mother. Who cares that she's been dead for 15 years? What the fuck? Yeah. Daniel Clowes is
like, it seems like he's trying to do kind of like an Addams Family type humorous.
Right. If anybody doesn't get this yet, every time you look at something in the world, like on TV or people you see in public, and you're just like, I fucking can't believe people are like that. Daniel Clowes has made comics, pages and pages, hundreds of pages of comics about this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. His observation skills are amazing. Right.
Yes.
I mean, he's like, you know, I think they mentioned it in the cartoonist kayfabe, where like his friends, like certain friends of his would like kind of start like talking less to him and stuff like that, just in case what they were doing would end up in one of his comics.
Yes.
That's messed up.
Yeah, and observational, man. That dialogue is spot on, bro. And we're talking about a dude who is not a fucking 19-year-old girl in the 90s. No. You know what I'm saying? So
that's what was shocking to me too. Like, this guy came up with this dialogue. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it does come out that way.
He has like a decanter of essence of 90s girl and just breathes it in.
Yeah.
He's been around a lot of art school chicks. Imagine it, right? He went to Pratt, I think. So where's that? New York or something?
I think it is.
Yeah. So yeah, just imagine, bro. Just imagine.
Yeah.
All right.
Only imagine.
Time to rate the book. And if you out there in the chat, if you've read the book, let us know out of 5 you digs. What do you give it? Jelani, what do you give Ghost World, the graphic novel?
On my first time reading it, I'm going to give it a 4. It's very good. It's originally not my cup of tea, but I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I would read, of course, I'm going to read it again after I watch the movie and then get a full grasp of what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy. But so far, I'm going to give it a 4. Very nice movie. Very nice book.
That's solid. What about you, Brian?
Man, I go with 4.5. Some of the other stuff that I've read so far from Daniel Clowes, I do like a little better. You know, I don't know. I tend to like weirder stuff. But it's hard for me. I was bouncing back and forth between 4.5 and 5 just because, like, I really do like it a lot, though. Like, I mean, I can't think of a single thing I don't like about it. You know, but I think it's just like, you know, maybe comparing it to some of his other stuff. There's some of the other stuff I like a little better. You know.
I can dig that. All right. What about you, Brooks? See?
I get a 5. I love this book, which is good for me since I bought it. So that was a good investment.
You bought it just on the recommendation of me that we were going to be doing it. So you're like, sure, why not? Plus it's $15.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an expensive trade either.
In a world where the average
Marvel selling
average Marvel trade right now is like $25-$30.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
That Bishop's Crossing trade paperback, not even a hardcover, is $50.
It's the Epic collection, yeah. Yeah, $50 fucking dollars. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I know, man. I know. All right. So for me, I like other Daniel Clowes work better, just like Brian, but I don't give a shit. I'm giving it 5 you digs, man. Dan can have as many 5 you digs from me as he wants because This dude's just fucking amazing. I mean, 5 digs all day long. The level of skill in the dialogue, the story, to have just a series of basically vignettes that at first have no planned purpose or goal, and then to tie it all together, and then be able to adapt that into a film, and then just, you're good now, Daniel Clowes. After years of painting fucking ties on the side, he hand painted ties to make ends meet during some of those lean years, right? Now he can do whatever the fuck he wants, man. You know what I'm saying?
Neckties?
Yeah. Hand painted neckties apparently were a thing back in the day. I don't fucking know, bro. But
another weird hipster thing from back in the day.
Yeah, that's another one of those fucking things. Look it up, man. That's what he did. I'm not even lying.
Makes me feel bad. It feels like I trashed it with the 4.5 now.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 5 digs, man. I love the damn book. I think it's beautiful. It's elegant. I think it's masterful. I mean, if you look up masterful comics in the dictionary, Daniel Clowes' face is right there. And it's not the weird face that when she goes to meet him in the fucking book.
That part was great.
And he's like, like in the fucking, I love that bit, man. It's not in the movie. They should have done that in the movie. Put him in some weird makeup, like Colin Farrell playing Penguin. By the way, Brooks, Monday, I think, is when Batman comes to HBO Max. So there you go. Yeah, it's the 18th, right? That's Monday. All right.
Yeah.
So
cool.
4 from Jelani, 4.5 from Brian, and a 5 from me and Brooks for a PCP average of 4.7, 8, 4, 3, 3, 3, 69 dudes. That bit getting old. Bit's getting old, isn't it? We're gonna have to stop it. Bit's getting old. We're retiring it. I feel it now. I feel it. Really, you really want to do a 69 joke on a Daniel Clowes? Yes, because it's pretentious, but not, you know what I'm saying? Not beyond dick and fart.
I hate assholes who keep running jokes into the ground.
I fucking hate this shit.
Such losers.
Yeah, we are. I literally have wanted this my whole life. Anyway, super excited because not only now have we reviewed the comic book Ghost World, but Monday night, join us for PCP Movie Night when we talk in depth about the film Ghost World, done in 2001, starring Scarlett Johansson and Thora Birch, Steve Buscemi. I am super excited. But first, join us for Dylan's Horror Show tomorrow night. We're talking about the 1981 classic Ghost Story. A buddy of mine, BG, just call him BG, said, Ghost Story, I think Dylan's Horror Show should be all gnarly R-rated horror movies and limbs cutting off and all that shit. Ghost Story seems classic and PG. He obviously ain't seen that movie. So Ghost Story to follow up Ghost World, right? That wasn't even fucking planned. Ghost World, Ghost Story, then back to Ghost World. But anyway, join us Monday night for Ghost World. And then next month for Comics Revisited, we're tackling for our 50th episode, Earth X.
Ooh.
For Marvel Comics. Jelani will be there because this is one that me and you wanted to do.
Yeah, a while back.
So we're doing Earth X. What is it? Jim Kruger, Alex Ross, but John Paul Leon, who just recently we lost, sadly, in this industry. So amazing artwork, a really cool story. The Eternals movie takes a lot from Earth X.
Yep.
Brooks, you want to join us for that one? You're a fan of Earth X, right? You ever read that one?
Earth X.
Bruh, you got to read. Okay, you should join us. We'll do it next month in May. We'll have a good grand old time talking about Earth X. Sound good?
Yeah, bro.
Hell yeah. Steph loves Earth X. Steph, you want to join us? Steph, come on. Come on. I think we just got the panel. Me, Brooks, Jelani, and Steph. I think that's the panel for Earth X. Because we're probably the only 4 people on YouTube that have ever read it. But we're not doing Universe X or Paradise X, but we're doing Earth
X. Yeah,
just Earth X for now. For now, the other ones are okay, but this one, I really like Earth X. Awesome. 98, 99, something like that. Around the same time that they're putting trade paperback collections of Ghost World out. Think about that. All right, y'all.
Should I stop my cam since I'm not on the next one?
No.
Oh.
Oh,
I'm
Brian.
kidding.
I'm so
Brian.
sorry. You can't be on every one, Brian.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You're
I haven't
on
read it
plenty
either.
coming up. Well, you should read along and,
And you
join us
did
in the
Akira,
chat.
and I did. So there.
Yeah.
Feel
Oh,
good.
see?
See?
See? Jelani, you get to do Akira.
Akira.
Kaneda!
All right. Final thoughts. Jelani.
I'd say something cool from the book, but there's so much stuff, so I have to read it again. So good night.
All right. Brian, final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just glad we're.
Now, I'd like 2 eggs over hard.
That bit's not old.
It
Not
won't
yet.
get old.
Not yet.
It won't
Not
get
yet.
old.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I'm glad we're finally doing some pretentious books, man. You know,
Finally,
up.
we did Mouse, bruh.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. That was years ago, though, man.
That
That
was
was like pre-pandemic. That was a different
episode
life.
20. Man.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a
yeah.
different life. That was in the apartment.
I'm still in the apartment.
Yeah. Well, I was there too, though.
But you were right there or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Real close to where you were. Where you are. Mm-hmm.
Special
don't
times.
stand so close to me. Brooks, final thoughts.
One of us really needs
Now, I'd like 2 eggs over hard.
spreading.
No poison.
Go ahead, Brooks. I'm sorry. I just wanted to give Brian a good laugh.
Oh shit! I fucking forgot what I said now.
See, that's what it's like.
I love it. All right, y'all. We're dipping
You
out.
derailed me, you bastard.
Yes. If you took one thing from this show tonight, read Ghost World.
Absolutely.
Read Ghost World. Watch the movie because we're covering it on Monday night. We're dipping out, y'all. We appreciate it. Pop, pop, boom, and